Izuku, Deku Midorya didn't exactly have the time of his life for the past 3 months. You see, in the past 3 months, a not-so-pleasant sequence of events came to pass. Izuku's best friend Katsuki Bakugo gained his explosion quirk. As the name implies, he could generate explosions from his hands. He was immediately praised by everyone for having a powerful quirk. Soon after, Izuku was diagnosed as quirkless. Then Katsuki became a different person who started with the letter B. He became a bully. He used his quirk, the one that generates explosions that can, hurt people, and turned it on his former best friend for the sole fact that he couldn't fight back. He also called him a useless piece of shit, among other things. This type of behavior continued on for 3 months, which leads us to today. Today, Izuku was minding his own business going through the lunch line and actually made it through without any fuss. Maybe today is when things start looking up, our green-haired protagonist thought to himself. Little did he know that fate is a fickle little bitch who would not be smiling upon him today. Immediately after he sat down, he was surrounded by Katsuki and his posse. The explosive boy himself set a fruit that looked similar to a gourd with swirly patterns covering it on his tray. He then spoke his intentions with a tone of mock kindness. "Hey there, Deku. I know things have been real rough for you lately, so I got you a present, eat up, buddy." That last word was spoken with undeniable venom, promising punishment if the request was refused. Izuku, however, while smarter than the average bear, was too young and inexperienced to pick up on such subtleties. "Oh, I really appreciate it, Kakin. But I wasn't feeling too hungry today, so I only got a small lunch." The explosive blonde took exception to this and did what any sane person would do. He forced the fruit down his ex-friend's throat and verbally flamed him. "Listen here, Deku, you quirkless piece of shit, you don't get to turn down my commands, you hear that?" he said as the green-haired boy in question was coughing after being force-fed the weird fruit. He then did the responsible thing and set off an explosion in his face. Everyone watched the spectacle and saw the young boy on the ground crying. But no one did anything, it wasn't their problem after all. The rest of the day continued similarly. Katsuki continued to bully Izuku and everyone else pretended not to notice. On his way home, after another verbal beating, Izuku saw All Might, his lord, savior, and heroic inspiration, taking down a villain with a minor flame quirk that only covered his hands up to his forearms. What luck too, as he was the only one to see this. Before All Might could leave, Izuku called out to him. All Might, All Might. Oh my gosh, that was so cool, can I please get your autograph, sir?" Izuku asked in a hero worship-fueled frenzy. "Why, of course, my boy, what is your name?" the hero asked while signing his fanboy's notebook. "Izuku Midorya, All Might, is it okay if I ask a question?" All Might chuckled before responding. "But of course, young Midorya, although I must ask that you make it quick, as I do need to bring this villain to justice." Izuku, without stuttering and a fire in his eye, asked, "Can I be a hero even though I'm quirkless?" With slight hesitation, All Might responded, "With all the dangers that heroes face day to day, and after all the villains I have encountered, I have to say no, it is far too dangerous for a quirkless person to be a hero. Although that shouldn't stop you from striving to help people, perhaps you could join the police force. It certainly isn't as glamorous as being a hero, but it is a noble profession nonetheless. Goodbye, my boy," and with that he took off. Now, if Izuku had heard this later in life, he might have been able to bear with it. But as a 4-year-old bully victim, he couldn't bear it and started crying as he made his trek home. However, it seemed that fate didn't had enough fun yet as he got home to see his apartment on fire. You see, the flame villain All Might had beaten and left a spark that grew into a raging inferno. The boy immediately ran towards his door to see if his mother had made it to safety. But what he saw through the window, however, pushed him over the edge. His mother was on the ground, unconscious as the building blazed. He didn't know how, but he knew he needed to get inside and save his mom. So color him surprised when thin, nigh-invisible wires sprouted from his fingertips and cut the door to pieces. Not looking the gift horse in the mouth, he sent the threads towards his mother, while unconsciously changing their properties so they wouldn't hurt her, and pulled her out of the blaze right as the roof collapsed, narrowly saving her. He did his damnedest to bring her away so the recently arrived firefighters and paramedics could help her. Immediately they got to work trying to save the boy's mother. Mitsuki Bakugo found the boy and comforted him while they waited. Her husband was still at work and her son was still out with his posse. It was only after the firefighters stopped the blaze did one of the paramedics approach the pair. "Excuse me, young man, are you related to the woman you brought to us?" Mitsuki was the one who answered for the boy. "Yeah, this is her kid Izuku and I'm her best friend Mitsuki. Is she okay? How is she?" the blonde woman said as she was flooded with worry. "I'm sorry, we tried our best to bring her back, but the smoke inhalation killed her. You have my condolences." And with the bomb dropped, the paramedic left the pair to grieve as they broke down. After crying for an unknown amount of time, Mitsuki brought Izuku back home with her and drew a bath for him while putting on a brave face for the young boy who was clearly distraught. "Here's a bath, Izuku, I know you're sad, but Inko would want you to be strong, you know, like a hero would be. I know it hurts, but so long as you always keep her in your heart, she'll never truly be gone." Izuku sniffled for a bit before giving Mitsuki the best smile he could muster. "Thanks, Aunt Mitsuki, I'll do my best." He gave the blonde woman another big hug before she left him to his bath. However, he started to feel weak as he got into the bath. It wasn't until Mitsuki came to check on him that she realized the gravity of the situation. There he was under the water, unmoving. She immediately pulled him out as he took in several deep breaths, thankfully not coughing as no water had made it into his lungs. Gone was the sympathetic friend and out came the worried mother in the lady. "Izuku, would you mind telling me exactly what the actual fuck that little stunt was?" she questioned, not pulling any punches. However, Izuku's response perplexed her. "I don't know," he said simply. Mitsuki took exception to this, however. "The fuck do you mean you don't know?" "I mean, I don't know. Once I settled in, I kept feeling weaker and weaker until I couldn't move. It took everything I had to hold my breath," the green-haired boy responded. "I don't know how, but I think it might be a drawback for my quirk." This perplexed Mitsuki as last she heard the boy was quirkless. "I thought the doctors diagnosed you as quirkless." "They did. But when I saw Mom through the window, I just thought that I had to save her, and then these wires dash." He then demonstrated his newfound powers to his bully's mother, which earned a look of surprise from the lady. "Came out of my fingers and cut the door down. But when they wrapped around my mother, they didn't hurt her at all, which means that I may have unconsciously changed the properties, which means dash." And he just mumbled the rest while they walked to the living room and he put on some clothes. It was at this moment that fate decided that 3 times wasn't enough. Fate decided that it needed to piss in Izuku's cereal 4 times today. Because just then Katsuki came home, and once the bath situation was explained, the explosive boy had a field day. Izuku, however, wasn't having it today, and, with a feat of strength that surprised everyone who saw it, Izuku decked Katsuki right in the jaw, knocking him to the ground before running out of the house to God knows where. It was at this point in time that Mitsuki went off on the piece of human shit she had the displeasure of calling her child and explained everything that had happened. "Aunt Inko is dead?" the boy said with tears in his eyes. Now don't get him wrong, he thought his ex-friend was basically a second-class citizen. But he loved the kid's mother as much as if not more than his own. He didn't feel bad for making fun of the fact that Deku was so useless he couldn't swim, no. He just wished he waited a day or two. After a thorough beating from his mother and a tongue lashing from his father, who received an explanation upon returning home, the Bakugo family proceeded to search for Izuku. Granted, Katsuki didn't try overly hard as he didn't particularly care for our green-haired protagonist. It wasn't until Izuku didn't come to school for a week that Katsuki realized the gravity of what he did. Not that it mattered to him. Flashing back a week and a couple hours to when Izuku bolted from the Bakugo house, he just ran, wanting nothing to do with the blonde bully he had put up with for the past 3 months. Until he ran into an older boy with red hair and he fell back. "I am really sorry, IW, wasn't looking where I was going." The green-haired boy apologized while sniffling and crying. The boy he ran into didn't respond, but the smaller boy, with half white and half red hair and a bandage over his left eye, who looked about his age, did. "Why are you crying?" he asked. "It was an honest mistake." Despite not telling anyone for 3 months, Ichi was well over the edge at this point. And my mom just died, and my bully made fun of me anyway, and All Might told me I couldn't be a hero and dash. And from the he dropped the bombshell that was the entire day upon the two brothers. Both siblings appalled at the life he lead up to this day comforted the boy. After he calmed down, Izuku introduced himself. I'm sorry for not introducing myself sooner, I'm Izuku Midorya. The older boy answered first. There's no need to apologize, kid, you've had a rough day and that's lightly. The name's Tuya Todoroki and this is my little brother Shudo. Pleased to meet you, Midoriya. The half-and-half-haired boy said, to which Izuku responded, likewise. I can understand that you don't want to go back to your bully's house, so why don't you come with us? It's dangerous for someone your age to be out and about by yourself. Oh no, I couldn't possibly impose on your family like that. However, the younger Todoroki took exception to that. Who cares about our family? Shudo said with venom that rivaled Izuku's feelings for Katsuki. Izuku looked confused before Tuya intervened and explained their relationship towards Endeavor and the treatment they received. In doing so, pulled off the fake layer of skin that covered all of his purple burn scars. Izuku was furious at this. Furious at the thought of a parent treating their children that way, but even more furious at the fact that Katsuki was on the path to becoming another Endeavor. He was so furious, in fact, that his wires sprouted from his fingertips and cut a nearby streetlight, stop sign, and fire hydrant to pieces. After recovering from the destruction-induced shock, Tuya gave Izuku an offer. We know why you ran away and you know why we ran away, so why don't you stick with us? Izuku answered without hesitation. Of course, we're three peas in a pod after all, he said while adopting a warm, but also intimidating smile that would soon be commonplace on the boy's facial features. Soon after that, the boys found an abandoned warehouse to stay in. After much discussion, all three agreed that it would do as a place to stay since both Todorokis had quirks that could keep them warm. Shudo could cool them down if needed, and Izuku's could likely make any repairs that may be needed. Now their only problem was food and water. Or so you would think. What do you mean? Or so we would think, Midoriya? Asked Tuya as he was very confused. Well, you see, as we were walking, I saw a guy getting beat on, so I used my quirk to stop the attacker so the other guy could get away. Riveting, but how does this solve our money problem? And Izuku gave his newly signature smile. I may or may not have swiped the attacker's wallet with my quirk. And there it was, a wallet with enough money to last them for a month, floating in mid-air with the only sign of the wires being the occasional light that reflected off of them. And with that, Izuku committed his first crime. Shudo was a little upset before Izuku explained himself. We don't have jobs. All we have is each other. Even though I only met you guys today, you've been nicer to me than someone I've known my entire life. Besides, with your asshole of a father being the number 2 hero, and my piece of shit bully being praised for having great hero potential, what better way to get back at them than by being villains? The Todoroki brothers thought about this before Tuya gave a wicked grin and Shudo gained a small smile. We're in, they both said simultaneously. Izuku responded with his own signature grin. Great, I'd hate to lose you guys so soon. Now for names, he said while stroking his chin. Names? We already have those. Shudo asked confusedly. He's talking about villain names, Shudo, the names the public will know us by. How about Dabi for me, is that good, Midoriya? Izuku grinned once more. Very clever. But please call me Izuku, we are family now after all. Then you can call Shudo and I by our names too. That's a nice smile you got, how about you be Joker? Izuku's grin grew even wider before shouting, I love it, and cackling like a madman. Shudo smiled at the fun his blood brother and his new green-haired brother were having. Big bro, what about my name? He asked, excited by the naming process. However, it was Izuku who answered. How about Freezer Burn? Tuya gave a look that said, not bad. But Shudo was overjoyed. That sounds so cool. Izuku laughed at his new brother's excitement, and Tuya smiled warmly at the happiness his new brother brought. Well, boss, what next? The scarred boy asked. Izuku was surprised at this. Shouldn't you be the boss since you're the oldest? But you came up with this idea, so it's only fitting that you become the boss. Yeah, besides, you're really cool, Izuku, you'll make a great boss. Shudo said in agreement. Well, first off, Tuya, you can take off the fake skin. You shouldn't hide from it since while I'm sure it was painful, it's a reminder of why we're doing what we're doing. Since your father meant for the scars to be a punishment, shouldn't you wear them with pride, since you aren't letting him keep you down? Tuya smiled and immediately let all his scars out for all to see while Shudo took the bandage off of his own long-healed scar with a smile of his own. Izuku beamed, not at all deterred by the scars his new brothers had. Our next order of business is training. Shudo flinched at the T word, but Izuku already expected such an outcome. Don't worry, Shudo, I don't mean the same training that your father put you through. He's right, little brother, Dad may have been over the top. But if we're going to be villains, then we need to be able to fight and use our quirks to the best of our abilities. Izuku was happy with Tuya's explanation and Shudo agreed shortly after. And thus their training began. Time skip. 10 years later. A lot has occurred over the past 10 years. Shudo and Tuya, who preferred to be called Dabi over his real name, both renounced the Todoroki name and chose their boss's family name. The newly renamed Midoriya family started their life of villainy small with crimes like mugging people on the street and carving out their own territory. 2 years into their life of crime with Shudo and Izuku at age 6 and Dabi at age 11, they saw a girl the same age as the two younger members of the family being assaulted by an adult. Izuku, despite being a villain, was still a gentleman, a trait he passed on to the two ex-Todorokis, and promptly used his strings to cover the man with severe lacerations that would most likely result in his death. As the three brothers approached the young girl, she grew more and more afraid that they had malicious intentions. It wasn't until Izuku kneeled before her and checked her for injuries and asked if she was all right that she calmed down enough to speak to them. Who are you guys? And what did you do to him? She asked, still understandably shaken up by the whole ordeal. Izuku spoke in a soft voice that didn't convey any malice and said, I'm Izuku and these are my brothers Dabi and Shudo, whilst gesturing to the two standing behind him. Dabi then spoke up in response to her second question. Izuku just gave the prick what he deserved for treating you like he did. The girl blushed a little bit while thinking how amazing it was that such a nice-looking boy did that for her. However, it also scared her. But what exactly did you do? She asked again. This time Shudo answered that Izuku used his quirk, which prompted him to show the young girl his strings, and explained that he could manipulate them and change their properties. However, Izuku had his own questions. If you don't mind me asking, what is your name, miss? This elicited another blush from the girl, since she was not used to anyone her age being so polite to her. My name is Yaoyorozu. Momo Yaoyorozu. Izuku then gave her his signature grin, which made Momo feel all warm and fuzzy inside. It's a pleasure to meet you, Miss Yaoyorozu. We're the Midoriya brothers. Now then, let's get you home. The green-haired boy said as he helped her up. As the brothers and the young Yaoyorozu walked, they learned a lot about each other. The Midoriya family learned that Momo came from a wealthy family, and while she enjoyed the benefits of it, her creation quirk allowed her to create whatever she wanted without needing the wealth. Being wealthy also alienated her from some of her classmates, so she usually felt alone. Momo, on the other hand, learned of their nature as villains, and while she was frightened at first once, she heard their story up until meeting her all she could feel was sympathy for the three Midoriyas. Her sympathy remained even after she learned of their crimes and the fact that they have had to kill before. Learning of their past and present gave Momo the resolve to be their friend no matter what. Dabi and Shudo smiled at this, however, Izuku had something to say about it once they made it to her house. I'm flattered, Yaoyorozu, really I am, but you have to remember that we are villains and that our lives are dangerous. Think it over for the night before committing yourself to being our friend. The only thing that prevented Momo from brushing off her green-haired savior's request was how serious he looked. I'll think it over for tonight if you agree to meet my parents. After all, I'm sure they'd be delighted to meet my saviors. And her saviors agreed, although Izuku would be the one to tell the story as he had become a practiced liar. Momo agreed to this and to not question anything he said for fear of bringing legal trouble their way. When the two older Yaoyorosis saw three boys standing behind their daughter, they immediately requested an explanation. And Izuku obliged, with the exception that the tall middle-aged man was a young teenager, and the lethal lacerations were just using his strings to throw the boy into a wall. He also left out their own backstories from the mix, but Momo's parents were too overjoyed to care as they invited the boys into their home to stay for dinner. The parents asked questions about the boys, the answers of which were all lies. Momo sported a fierce blush after her mother asked which one of the brothers was her boyfriend. Mom, I just met them, besides kissing and all that stuff you and Dad do is so gross, Momo declared in response to her mother's teasing. The fact that we just met aside, I'm 5 years older than these two and they're too young to be dating anyway. Which was followed by nodding from a stoic Shudo and a slightly blushing Izuku. After dinner and hanging out with Momo, the Midoriya brothers left and gave Momo the address of a restaurant to meet at should she decide to be their friend regardless of their criminal status. The next day came by and Momo did in fact choose to befriend the boys and even helped with their criminal endeavors over the years. A month after first meeting Momo, Shudo, while walking around by himself, saw some kids kicking a shirt and pants. He soon realized that it was a girl who had an invisibility quirk and immediately sprung into action. However, as he used his ice on one boy, he saw another turn into a marble in the hands of someone who looked to be about Dabi's age. This man was Atsuhiro Seiko and the young girl's name was Toru Hagakure. After talking with the two kids, Toru and Atsuhiro learned of his reputation as well as his brother's. What shocked him, however, was how willing they were to join up with the Midoriya brothers. By the time Shudo, Izuku, Momo, and Toru were 10 and Dabi and Atsuhiro were 15 and 16 respectively, they had all killed someone. The Midoriyas had been killers even before meeting their new friends. Toru, now named Phantom, got her first kill during a robbery due to a jewelry store guard being able to see her with his quirk. Atsuhiro, now named Mr. Compress, killed the leader of a gang trying to intimidate the Midoriyas. Momo, now named the Creator, had her first kill, which was the most shocking of them all as hers was the bloodiest since she mutilated someone with a gun hand quirk aiming for Izuku. After Izuku calmed her down and reassured her that everything was okay, she revealed that she would do it again in a second. It was at that point that Momo joined Toru and Compress as full-fledged members of the Midoriya family. 2 years later, Dabi found one Himiko Toga after her first murder and recruited her as an associate of the Midoriya family. He used her to help him be a scare tactic to get the more brazen gangs under the iron boot that was Izuku Joker Midoriya. 1 year after that, Himiko became a family member just like Toru, Momo, and Compress before her. It was during her introduction to the other family members that she tried to flirt with Izuku as an attempt to get a rise out of Dabi. Dabi was mildly annoyed since he had grown attracted to the little psychopath and knew what she was doing. Momo, on the other hand, was furious and claimed Izuku as her own by kissing him in front of everyone. She and Izuku both blushed furiously before glaring at Compress, handing Dabi some money. Under Izuku's orders, Compress explained that he and Dabi made a bet on who would make the first move and that he just lost. Himiko then kissed Dabi much longer than Momo kissed and Izuku. When asked for an explanation by Momo, who was still upset at Toga for flirting with her now boyfriend, Dabi was the one who responded. She wanted to get a rise out of me, he said simply, to which Himiko said, guilty as charged. Fast forward to the present day and the Midoriya family had become a powerhouse in the criminal underworld. The core members, now called executives, had developed their skills quite well over the years. Shudo and Dabi both became capable of easily overpowering endeavor with their flames. Shudo could cause his ice to dwarf tall buildings with little effort. Compress, who was already a skilled acrobat, became an expert at the sport. Toru's stealth and assassination skills became unmatched. Momo easily became the smartest member of the family excluding Izuku and could create anything the family could ever need. Izuku made the most improvement ability-wise, however. He had completely mastered his ability and developed several techniques. He learned that he could fire his strings like bullets, attach them to people's nervous systems to control their bodies, manipulating them in a way that caused a lot of friction. He could creating a burning whip from his palm. He even learned that somehow he could connect his strings to the clouds themselves and use them to fly. However, his most powerful ability was his awakening. Through awakening his devil fruit, he was capable of transforming his very surroundings into strings that he could manipulate. The correct terminology was determined after Momo found a very obscure book explaining devil fruits about a year prior to the present day. Quirks aside, each executive became masters of hand-to-hand combat capable of taking on multiple people at once. Pro heroes included, with Izuku specifically bringing his strength to an inexplicably superhuman level. Today, however, the Midoriya family was on their way to a meeting with a group called the League of Villains. Or rather, the Midoriya brothers were, as Compress and Himiko were at the warehouse that was their core base, whilst Momo and Toru were currently at UA in the hero course. Why were they there, you ask? Simple, they're spies. In fact, said spies had just passed on information that was related to the brothers' meeting. Joker, Freezer Burn, and Dabi were on their way to meet the League of Villains' own Tamura Shigaraki. Once making it to the bar that was the League's base, Izuku entered with his signature smile adorning his features while Shudo was stoic, and Dabi was disinterested. Joker, I'm glad you made it. Are you interested in my offer? The hand-faced villain asked. As the three stepped into the light, their appearance was more noticeable. Dabi had dyed his hair black and wore a black long coat with his sleeves rolled up past his elbows, simple black pants that he had cuffed at the ankles, and black shoes. Shudo wore a custom-made jacket courtesy of Momo that was half white and half red corresponding to his hair, a black tank top underneath with black pants and white shoes. Izuku wore black pants with green stripes, black shoes, a dark green dress shirt with the top button undone, and a black feathery coat that he wore like a cape. Whether or not I'm interested would depend on your plan, Shigaraki, said the green-haired kingpin with his smile never wavering. Shigaraki, while reluctant to tell the crime lord of his plan, did so anyway out of respect for his reputation and due to orders from his sensei. Well, thanks to inside information, we know that Class 1A is going to be at the USJ in a few short days and that All Might will be there. Get on with it, face palm, said an impatient Dabi. Shigaraki scowled under his hand before continuing. We've amassed a large amount of villains and have our very own Numu. A large black-skinned being with an exposed brain and a beak-like mouth came out from the shadows at its mention. With multiple quirks in the form of shock absorption, super regeneration, super strength, and super speed. It was designed to kill All Might. Izuku's expression did not change, however. Interesting indeed. Sure, I'll go along with your little plan. After all, there isn't really a downside for me. Shigaraki beamed at this information. Excellent, he said. How many people will you be sending in with us? Izuku pretended to think before actually responding. Just Freezer Burn and I will suffice. This shocked Shigaraki, as he expected more than just 2 people. However, he followed his sensei's advice and went with what they said. Very well, be here in 2 days and then we'll infiltrate the USJ. Izuku nodded before he and his executives took their leave. Are you sure you and Shudo are both necessary? Dabi asked, as he was curious as to why the boss and an executive were going. Relax, Dabi, we aren't going out of necessity, we're going because unlike you we won't be able to see our girlfriends regularly, Izuku said with a fake glare. Indeed, with Toru and Momo both infiltrating UA, you'll be the only one who can keep up a relationship that isn't long distance. Shudo agreed, emulating his boss's fake glare. In an attempt to take the false heat off of him, Dabi brought up another point. Do we know who the League's informant is? As a matter of fact, we do. Toru discovered that the person who gave the League their information is one Denki Kaminari. Shudo reported as it was his girlfriend who obtained the information. And the best part is that due to Toru's invisibility, the Lil Lightning Bolt doesn't know who our informant is, Izuku said with glee. Besides, that little shit Bakugo is in 1A, so I plan to pay him a visit too, he said with a malicious smirk shared by Dabi and Shudo. Momo was the first person to walk into class, followed by a boy with dark hair and glasses. She decided to come to class early as she assumed it would be expected of someone who got into UA through recommendations. Hagakure followed in a few minutes after, followed by a few more students. After a couple more minutes, one student walked in, and it filled their hearts with unbridled rage. This student was Katsuki Bakugo. Toru was pissed at the piece of shit that dared to bully her beloved boss who made her feel important, like family. Momo, however, was beyond enraged. It took all of her willpower and some of Toru's to keep her from brutally murdering the boy who bullied her boss, savior, and boyfriend right where he stood. The explosive boy was saved by the timely arrival of Shota Aizawa, better known as the pro-hero Eraserhead. After he criticized them for taking too long to get focused, he handed each student a gym uniform so they could get changed. In the girls' locker room, Toru and Momo decided to take a little longer than the rest of the girls to get ready so they could discuss the cockroach that was in their class. The fact that he even made it here is ridiculous. If it weren't for that droopy-eyed caterpillar, I would have ripped him to pieces right then and there, Momo said with unrivaled venom in her voice. I know, Momo, his existence pisses me off too. But think about it, would you rather one of us deal with him, or would you rather have Joker be the one to do him in? Toru said in an attempt to placate her crime-given sister. And it worked. Maybe a little too well, because Momo started laughing like a madwoman the moment she thought of what her beloved would do to his former bully. Now don't get her wrong, she isn't a Yandere by any extent. She's just appreciative of Izuku like Toru is, but for different reasons. Toru is appreciative because Izuku showed her what a real family could be like. The love and care he shared for all of his executives was so foreign to her when she first became a member of the family, and as a result she considers the Midoriya family to be her real family, while her blood relatives are just a convenient mask. Momo, on the other hand, appreciates Izuku not just due to the love that they share, but due to the fact that he didn't treat her differently because she was wealthy. Hell, he even turned down her offers of financial support by always saying the family will gain money through its own methods, otherwise it's meaningless. And while some may feel insulted, Momo felt proud to be part of the Midoriya family because it meant she was kept around not because of her status, but because they actually wanted her there. So when they discovered who Katsuki was, it took Shudo, Dabi, and Compress to hold them back from hunting him down. It was only when Izuku returned from a meeting with a rival gang that they were able to calm down. The reason for this was simple: he planned to break him down piece by piece. When he spoke his plans out loud, all the executives were put at ease. The reason for this is simple. All of the executives, Izuku included, had shit lives before the family existed. Izuku was bullied, Dabi and Shudo were abused, Momo was neglected, Toru was treated like a slave, and Compress was put under unattainable expectations that usually resulted in a physical or verbal beating. However, the existence of the family changed all of that because Izuku showed them what family should be, and each and every executive shared this experience with every person who worked under them. The Midoriya family was more than a criminal organization. It was an honest-to-God family, as the name implies, and that is what inspires the loyalty each member has for their boss. After deciding they had taken enough time, they went outside and Aizawa explained the quirk-enhanced fitness tests they would be doing. He had Katsuki demonstrate the ball throw, and with that the tests began. After completing all the exams, the students ranked as follows. 1. Momo Yaoyorozu holding back. 2. Isuka Kendo 3. Katsuki Bakugo 4. Tenya Ida 5. Fumikage Tokoyami 6. Mizo Shoji 7. Mashireo Ojiro 8. Ijiro Kirishima 9. Setsuna Tokage 10. Toru Hagakure holding back 11. Mina Ashido 12. Ochako Urarika 13. Koji Koda 14. Rikido Sato 15. Tsuyu Azui 16. Yuga Aoyama 17. Hantasiro 18. Denki Kaminari 19. Kyuka Jiro 20. Minoru Mineta started crying as he saw his rank before Aizawa admitted to it being a logical ruse in order to get people to try their hardest. Mineta's tears of sorrow became tears of relief while everyone was shell-shocked. Well, almost everyone, since Momo and Toru shared the same thought. Really, they thought he was serious. After this, classes proceeded as normal until lunch, where Momo ate with Itsuka, Kyoka, and Setsuna while Toru sat with Mina, Mashireo, Denki, and Tsuyu. They each interacted with their fake personalities. Momo being an intelligent, but slightly naive rich girl whose innocence must be protected at all costs, and Toru being a bubbly air-headed gossip hound. The day passed by uneventfully until the next day, where it was time to choose class representatives. Surprisingly, or not depending on how you look at it, Momo was chosen as the class rep and Itsuka was the vice rep. At lunch, the press somehow managed to break in, which caused a panic that Itsuka and Momo both proceeded to calm down. While this occurred, however, one Denki Kaminari found and reported the USJ staff schedule to the League of Villains, not knowing that Toru was right there with him. After school, Toru reported her findings to Momo, who reported them to Izuku. The next 2 days passed uneventfully until the day of the USJ trip came. As all of the students got on the bus, all of the villains, Izuku and Shudo included, began to meet up at a certain bar. The plan was about to be set in motion. Momo POV. As we got on the bus, I couldn't help but wonder what exactly Izuku had planned for the USJ. I would talk to Toru about it, but we agreed that it would be best to stick with our respective groups. So instead of discussing possible actions our family might take using the USJ information, I have to listen to a bunch of naive teenagers praise me about a false representation of my academic and athletic abilities. Toru at least gets to gossip and have fun. Despite my irritation, I put on a false smile and react humbly with things like, "Oh no, I'm no better than anyone else," or "Everyone did their best, and that's what matters," even though the first statement is a complete lie and the second doesn't matter if your best can't save you. Geez, being a criminal has made me such a cynic, although maybe that's because all of my positivity is geared towards the family. There is one student aside from Bakugo that has earned my ire, however. That grape-headed little perv Mineta. If I weren't in the hero course, I would have gutted him the second he looked at me with those perverted little eyes. At least Bakugo can maintain eye contact. That's not to say that I like Bakugo more than Mineta. Oh no no no. There is no human being in this world that I hate more than Bakugo. Arrogant prick. Izuku is better than him in every capacity and doesn't lord any of it over any of us. If anything, it's a struggle and a half to get him to accept any kind of praise. My thoughts were disturbed, however, by someone lightly shaking me. It was Itsuka Kendo. "Hey Yamamo, you alright? You kinda spaced out and had a weird look on your face for a second," the orange-haired girl said. "Yeah, you kinda looked a lil love-struck, if I'm being honest," Tokage chimed in. "Come on guys, her love life doesn't really matter, it's her business after all," said the ever-loyal Jiro. Her response didn't surprise me, honestly. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that she had a crush on me. Although I am certainly surprised that she likes me for me rather than my body. Toru has confirmed that she looks at me longingly rather than just checking me out like a certain grape. Good intentions aside, however, this just caused more problems as the gossip hound that was Mina Ishido and the perverts Mineta, Kaminari, and Siro immediately rushed over to get the scoop on my love life. "Yamamo's love life, come, I gotta get in on this. Where are the details, girl?" said a pink-skinned annoyance. "New Yaoyorozu can't be taken, how can I tap that now? I'll kill you, you grape-headed midget. Face it, dude, she's always kinda been out of our league. Kind of out of your league is an understatement, traitor boy. I don't think being in a certain league is the problem, Jamminghui. The problem is that you're all perverts," the punk girl said in response. This elicited tears from all the perverts involved. "My questions haven't been answered. I need answers. Who is it? Are you already dating? Is it just a crush you need to confess? Is it a boy? Is it a girl? Come on, girl, I need to know. The only thing you need to know is that I'm getting very irritated right now, Pinky. Geez, Ishido, have ya ever heard of a right to privacy? You have no right demanding this stuff from Yao Dash. I appreciate your assistance, Jiro, but it's fine. Some people just lack the respect to know what privacy is." Mina and the perverts cringed at this. Serves em right. If you must know, I do in fact have a boyfriend. He does not go to UA, and we have been dating for 2 years with many more hopefully on the way. I had to keep from laughing out in triumph. The perverts looked dejected. Mina looked guilty. Jiro looked like she expected such a thing. Perhaps some thanks are in order. "I really do appreciate your assistance, Jiro. They were quite overwhelming," I said with a smile that looked like it blinded her. "It's no problem, Yamamo, what are friends for, right?" she said while rubbing the back of her neck. I'm surprised Hagakure wasn't trying to get in on it, though. Perhaps Hagakure is capable of understanding privacy. Maybe. And with that, the perverts know that I am off the market. Granted, they don't know how much hell my lovely Izuku will rain down upon them if they so much as try and hold my hand without my consent. Once that was over, the rest of the bus ride was fairly uneventful and we made it to the USJ without incident. Once we got there, we were greeted by number 13, who was suspiciously without All Might. When one student asked, she said that he was busy and couldn't make it. "Oh boy, the league isn't gonna like that," Toru whispered into my ear, and I nodded in agreement. Izuku informed us of their plan to invade the USJ and kill All Might. They are likely to be upset that they'll be missing their shot. We followed number 13 as she explained rescues and the USJ's role as a rescue training site. However, we stopped when a portal of black mist opened and several villains came out. "Hey, is this supposed to be part of the exercise?" Ojiro asked worriedly. "No, those are villains," Aizawa said ominously. 13 protect the students. Aizawa then proceeded to launch himself at the villains. I must say his combat technique is quite good. Any of us executives could do better, but his skill is still nothing to scoff at. After all the rank and file villains came out, the big fish decided to step out. A man dressed in black and covered with hands. Tamura Shigaraki. A large black humanoid that matched the description of the Numu. Shudo came out next, followed by the warp gate user and finally Izuku. As soon as Izuku left the warp gate, most of us were teleported to different zones. I was in the same zone as Jiro and Kaminari. There are worse people to be stuck with, I suppose. We were rushed by the villains surrounding us and the fight began. Izuku POV. As I stepped out of Kurogiri's warp gate, I immediately locked eyes with Momo. I must say, quite the revealing hero costume if you ask me. Eraserhead was already swatting away the hordes of villains that Shigaraki brought. Not gonna lie, it doesn't really surprise me. Over the 2 days we spent preparing, I learned that he was an amateurish man-child. He had no backup plan. He threw fits whenever things didn't go his way, and his army of villains were all trash. Yeah, there was no way the family was going to ally with the League. The next person I was excited to see was good old Bakugo. He still looks as temperamental as ever. I can deal with him later though. As Kurogiri warped everyone away, I saw Momo and Kaminari go through the same portal. Well, better start looking, I guess. As I turned, I saw Shudo leaving to search for Toru as well. Needless to say, he'd have the more difficult search. Oh well. I think to myself as I use my Skyroad now, if I was a warp gate user. Where would I send a lightning user? It was then that I saw a large flash of lightning over by Araki. Area, that was easy. Once I made it over there, I saw Momo, Kaminari, and a purple-haired girl with AUX cords for earlobes. Well, I need them out of the picture if I want some alone time, I thought before covering them in cuts courtesy of my strings. Not enough to kill them, but enough to ensure my privacy. As they fell to the ground, Momo looked up, saw me, and immediately smiled. God, I really have it bad for this girl. I glided down to her and was immediately greeted with a passionate kiss. I missed you too, I said with my signature smile before getting multiple pecks. Less talking, more kissing, she commanded, and I happily obliged. Anytime 2 years ago or more, I would have been a blushing mess. Now not so much. Once we finished, she told me about her time at UA so far, and I was laughing my ass off. Holy shit, I can't wait to see the looks on their faces when they realize that their class rep was a villain all along, ha ha ha. Momo, God bless her soul, shared my amusement and laughed with me. Then came the unpleasant part. You know you have to do to me what you did to them, she said with a soft smile. I was almost always smiling nowadays. A smile has adorned my face 90% of the time for the past 4 years. But when she said that, I scowled. I'm not happy about that. I know you aren't, but I do need to maintain my cover. You know I don't like that I have to do this. I know you don't. I love you, Izuku. I love you too, Momo, I said with a sigh as my strings coiled around her and gave her the same amount of cuts as her classmates. I caught as she fell and placed a kiss on her forehead before I flew towards the sounds of All Might and Numu clashing. Shudo POV. After Izuku left, I immediately began my search for Toru. I found her by herself, surrounded by a small amount of villains sprawled all over the floor. They likely split from the pack. When she noticed I was there, she ran up and gave me a kiss that I immediately reciprocated. I missed you, Halfsy, she said softly as we held one another. I missed you too, Toru. I felt her smile into my neck. She told me everything that happened at UA. The quirk apprehension test, which she was upset she couldn't go all out on. The press breaking in when she uncovered the league's insider. How she and Momo were able to get along great with the other students. You know you're going to be found out at some point, right? Well, yeah. But that doesn't mean I can't have some fun with it. A fair point. Just don't get too used to the student lifestyle. I know. You worry too much, Hafsi. I don't see a problem with that. Besides, I always worry about you. I know you do. I love you, Shudo. I love you too. I should get back now. Stay safe. I'm not the one you should be saying that to. After all, it's her classmates that should be worried. Especially Bakugo. I thought to myself as I made my way back to the main area where I could hear what I could only assume was a power clash between Numu and All Might. Bakugo POV, damn that fucking warp gate user. At least I was surrounded by small fry I could blow to pieces. Hey shitty hair, let's see who can stomp the most small fry. I said, since I figured why not make the most of this shitty day. I'm always down for a competition, Bakubro. One like this is especially manly. He said as he hardened himself and starting beating the ever-living fuck out of as many villains as possible. Didn't really matter, it was obvious I was gonna win. I don't know how long it took, but eventually the small fry were on the ground after a world of hurt. Surprisingly, shitty hair only lost by 5 villains. I honestly expected him to do worse. As we made our way back to our class of extras, I had a lot to think about. Glasses escaped, so he should bring back some pros to round up all these punks. That isn't an issue. What was an issue was that the last villain to step out looked suspiciously like that shitty Deku. Which is weird because that damn nerd was declared dead 3 years ago. After he ran away 10 years ago, it was like he fell off the map. No evidence, no DNA, nothing. Yet today a villain that looked remarkably similar to Deku appeared. No way. Even if that fucking nerd was alive, his hero worship wouldn't let him be a villain. On our way back, we met up with Man-Hands and the lizard bitch. We got back just in time to watch Mr. Aizawa get his ass handed to him by that big black fucker. I used one of my gauntlets to blast the fucker off of him while lizard bitch and frog bitch hauled him off to safety. At the same time, shitty hair and Man-Hands pinned the warp gate user. Meaning it was just me and that piece of shit covered in hands. Until the big black fucker got back up and shrugged off my attack like nothing. I took exception to this. How in the actual fuck are you still alive? That isn't a very heroic thing to say, Bakubro. Shut the fuck up, shitty hair. If this thing died, I think people would make an exception. If a pro killed it, then yeah, but not so much for a student. Shut the fuck up, Man-Hands. Fuck, these people are pissing me off. Then the handfucker went off on a monologue about how that black thing was designed to kill All Might. I'm not even gonna lie. That shit scared me. Just as it was about to charge me, the big man himself came in and intercepted it. With the big guys out of the way, I rushed the hand bastard. I got you now, you piece of shit. Or so I thought, because right as I was about to blow him into the next life, I stopped moving. And it wasn't consciously. No matter how hard I tried, I could not move. Then I heard a laugh that shook me to my core. Whoops, did I do that? I heard someone say mockingly. I was allowed to turn my head, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Deku. There he was, sitting with a smile that made my already chilled blood freeze. Hey, Bakugo. I flinched more than I would like to admit when he didn't call me that stupid childhood nickname of his. How's it hanging? You seem a lil tied up at the moment. But that's no reason why we can't catch up. Baku bro, you know this guy? Oh yeah, we know each other real good. Used to be best friends. Then the prick got his quirk. Bakugo, what is he talking about? I could tell Man-Hands was getting worried as to where this was going. Pride be damned, I wasn't gonna let Deku be the one to say what I did. I bullied him. Both of their eyes widened with shock. They were even more shocked by what he said next. From the day he got his quirk to the day my mom died. He said as I felt whatever was holding me grip even tighter. How are you even holding me, Deku? You're quirkless. If I can get him to lose focus for just one fucking second, I can. Or so you'd think. This lil ability of mine awakened when I tried to save my mom. Drawback is I can't swim, but hey, it's a small price to pay. Why are you helping these fuckers, Deku? Weren't you the one going on and on about helping people like a hero? You're right, I did always drone on and on about heroes. Until I realized that pieces of human shit like you were capable of being heroes despite your attitude. He said with that sickening smile never leaving his goddamned face. So I decided to be a villain. You piece of shit. Do you think Aunt Inko would want this? Do you? I love my mother Bakugo, really I do. But what she wants doesn't factor into it anymore. Actually, what you want doesn't matter either. So let's see if you can be a hero with that quirk of yours cut in. Half shall we? And like that my right arm fell to the ground, severed at the elbow. The last thing I saw was man hands and shitty hair rush towards me before they were cut off by a wave of fire. At that point everything went black. General POV Izuku let go of Bakugo after he severed his arm. Shudo kept Kirishima and Kendo from reaching him. However, Shigaraki's supposed anti-all might weapon was just blasted into the stratosphere. Needless to say, the man-child was pissed. Just as he and All Might were about to rush each other, they found themselves unable to move. What the fuck is this? The man-child cried out. I can't move, All Might commented. Congratulations, you have basic observation skills, Izuku said with his smile never wavering. I told you that you should have had a backup plan, Shigaraki. I chuckled at the glare he gave me. Well, this colossal fuck-up at least served one purpose. And what purpose was that villain? Crippling a student. All Might said, clearly enraged. Nah, that was more of a personal goal. This poorly thought-out assault showed me that joining the League of Villains would be detrimental to my organization. Kurogiri, if you would be so kind as to get us out of here before I make your boss's head look like Bakugo's arm. Kurogiri didn't need any further prompting as he was well aware of the Joker's reputation. In that instant, the villains were gone. All Might patched up Bakugo the best he could, and the heroes returned to UA to lick their wounds. All students injured in the conflict had their injuries tended to and were in the infirmary. Izuku and Shudo left without a word upon returning to the bar. Shigaraki threw a fit the second they were out the door. Toru gave Momo a get-well letter from Izuku when she woke up. And the everyday life of heroes, villains, and spies continued. Izuku really was living up to the name Joker at the moment. Why, you ask? Because he was laughing his ass off right now. There are two reasons for this. The first reason is his chair. Well, it isn't really a chair, it's more of a pile of bodies. You see, with the help of a hacker under his command named Calculator, /n thumbs up to you if you get the reference, Izuku was able to find every student that actively bullied him as well as the teachers who let it happen. Using Calculator's impressive skills, he was able to completely ruin the teachers' lives. He got them fired for the things they did, created fake evidence of adultery to get their spouses to leave them if the bullying wasn't enough or if actual adultery hadn't already occurred. He got their kids to hate them, and made it so they were unable to get another job. So when they disappeared courtesy of Absalom, an invisibility quirk user, who specialized in abductions, no one was really surprised. For the kids, they were also abducted by Absalom and had fake suicide notes left at their houses, and their DNA was left at areas where it was believable that their bodies would never be found. When all of these offenders were brought before Izuku, he had a field day. Every single one apologized to Izuku and begged for mercy and forgiveness. Spoiler alert, he ran out of both. They were subjected to many different types of torture, all made possible by his devil fruit. /n any named attacks can be found on the One Piece Wikia under either the Ito Ito no Mi article or the Don Quixote da Flamingo article. He used overheat to repeatedly burn them. He used the pentachromatic strings to whip them and cut them. He used parasite to make some of them fight to the death. He made others fight to the death willingly at the promise that he would let the winner go free only to kill them right after. He used his strings to simulate the rack and tortured people that way. He created nooses to hang them almost to the point of unconsciousness before letting them breathe and doing it all over again. He made the strings dig under their skin to trigger their pain receptors. He ripped out their fingernails, toenails, and teeth. He showed no mercy. One by one they died under the strain of the torture they were put under until they became the pile they are now. The second reason is due to his beloved Momo. She created contact lenses that acted as recording devices so she could send a special video to Izuku, and it was the one he was watching now. Izuku expected his classmates to tear Bakugo a new one. That didn't change how amused he was. The comments were as such. Tenya Ida. A boy you bullied became a villain that covered 3 of our classmates in severe injuries. What do you have to say for yourself? Itsuka Kendo. How the hell do you expect to be a hero if you act like that? And you still act like an entitled brat who can push around whoever he wants. Ijiro Kirishima. Yeah, what the actual fuck, man? I thought you just had a temper, but you're just a bully. Kyokujiro. If you had actually been a decent fucking human being, then maybe Kaminari Yamamo, and I wouldn't have been cut to hell and you would still have 2 arms. Denki Kaminari. What the hell was even your problem? You even bullied the kid when his mom died, if he's to be believed. That's all kinds of fucked up. Minoru Mineta. I might be a pervert, but I at least know when to shut up and stop. When a dude's mom dies is definitely one of those times. Mizo Shuji. You should be ashamed of yourself. Fumikage Tokoyami. You are covered by the darkness of your sins. Yet you do not seem to care. Do you truly want to be a hero? To you Azui. With a best friend. Like you, no wonder he became a villain ribbit. Mashireo Ojiro. I never liked you to begin with. To find out that you bullied a kid who worshipped heroes to the point that he became a villain makes me despise you. Setsuna Tokeichi. I gotta repeat what Ida said on the first day. Are you sure you're in the right place? It's beginning to seem like you don't belong here. Rikido Sato. And all because he was quirkless? What's even wrong with that? If anything, the people who continue to push on despite being quirkless deserve praise way more than an entitled bully like you. Yuga Aoyama. While he certainly has style and flair, the transition your ugly actions forced upon him is certainly not beautiful. Koji Koda. He just shook his head in disappointment and glared at Bakugo. Hantasiro. You know, I was willing to look past your attitude, but man, I don't think I can really do that now. You're definitely an unlikable prick. Ochako Uraraka. How can you even think to call yourself a hero? Let alone call us extras, and you have the audacity to say that you're going to be number 1. It'll never happen. Mina Ishido. You have fucking issues, dude. You should sort those out before even thinking of becoming a hero. The funniest part to him, though, was Bakugo's own declaration. The response he got from Momo and Toru was just icing on the cake. Katsuki Bakugo. I fucking know all of that. I know I fucked up. I know I'm the reason those 3 got cut up and I lost my arm. I fucking know all of it. That's why I'm gonna save him. I'm gonna bring him back to the way he was. Toru Hagakure. What makes you think you can save him? What makes you think he even wants to be saved? If he honestly wanted to be a hero, do you think he would have been able to do what he did to you, Jiro, Kaminari, and Yamamo, all with that damn smile on his face? Katsuki Bakugo. So what? You're just telling me to give up. So what if I can't be number 1 with my attitude? I don't care about any of that. I just want to save one fucking kid. Momo Yaoyorozu. And what makes you think he'll even listen to you? He clearly hates you. He was willing to team up with villains he called amateurs for the sole purpose of getting to you. And when he did, he effectively cut your fighting strength in half by taking off your arm. Look at what he did to Jiro, Kaminari, and I, all with a smile. Do you truly believe these are the actions of someone who deep down still wants to be a hero? Katsuki Bakugo, he's just in a fucked up place right now. I can bring him back. Shota Aizawa. Be realistic. The only thing you can do is bring him in. Do any of you even know who this kid is? Katsuki Bakugo. Of course I do, he's Izuku Midorya. Shota Aizawa. He's a feared and well-known villain. No one outside of his organization knew his name until now. Everyone else always called him Joker. He's the head of his own crime family as well as an underworld powerhouse. Underground heroes like myself have been after him for several years. This shows how smart he was even as a child. He would have made a great hero, but now he's one of the most terrifying villains out there. Tenya Ida, sir. You say he's well known, but none of us have heard of him. Ajiro Kirishima. Yeah, I've never heard of any Joker. Itsuka Kendo. He's never been on the news or anything. Shota Aizawa. That's because he's never been caught. As I said, he's the head of a crime family. That means he has underlings. I suppose it's more accurate to say he's well known amongst underground heroes like myself. Everyone who has spoken to Joker has always said the same thing. He's composed and respectful unless someone speaks badly about his executives. Tsuyu Ajui. Executives ribbit? Shota Aizawa. Like the kid with the half and half hair. They're the leaders that only answer to him. An info broker from Shinjuku told me that the executives are like family to him. And with that, the video was over and Izuku was still laughing. Momo, Toru, and Eraserhead had the right idea though. There was no way in hell that he was becoming a hero. Not now and most likely not ever. He wasn't completely evil though. He has helped heroes from time to time if it fit his own agenda. If another villain was causing him problems, he'd either cut the problem out or lead the heroes right to the problem and have them deal with it. If someone was trying to push in on his territory, he'd leave anonymous tips to have the heroes deal with it. Once he showed the video to Dabi, Shudo, Compress, and Toga, they all laughed with him. Until it got to the point where Aizawa spilled the beans on what he knew. Joker, should we do something about Eraserhead? Ooh, can I play with him? Babe, as much as I love your eccentricities, Eraserhead isn't to be taken lightly. Actually, Dabi Eraserhead's combat skill is below our own. It would be more challenging than usual, but it's still doable. Shudo said, which eased his brother's worries. Honestly, I'm not even mad. I figured some heroes would know of us by now. Eraserhead just confirmed it. Now that we know for sure, we can make certain that no slip-ups are made. Couldn't he use his knowledge to find out our identities? That would put Momo and Toru in danger. Compress, that would be a good point if our reputation didn't precede us. Everyone knows what'll happen if they rat us out. Every boss that knows who we are is the boss because we killed the previous one for crossing us. All the info brokers have been paid off, and even if they weren't, they all value their lives. As expected of our Joker. He always thinks of everything. Toga cheered. On to other subjects. When you gonna find that special someone in your life, Compress? Asked A. Very curious Dabi. After all, if he could get a girl, Compress was more than capable. I am not currently looking at the moment. The only way it would ever work was if they were to become or already be a member of the family after all. It was at that moment that Transporter, a villain under Compress dressed like a butler, teleported into the room. Joker, a broker, came and delivered the information you asked for. He said you would know what it is. Thank you very much, Transporter. You're free to go back to what you were doing unless Compress has something for you to do. I have nothing. I am pleased with your work, Transporter. But of course, boss. I'll be on my way. With that, he bowed and teleported away. What did you request, Izuku? Shudo asked. This, my dear brother, is information on Class 1B of UA's hero course. I intend to see if there is someone who can be persuaded to turn to our side. Izuku had quite the amount of information to look through. It would take a while to look through all LF. Their backgrounds leading up to now, after all. Momo POV. Outwardly, I was glaring. Inwardly, I was laughing my ass off. The class just finished tearing into Bakugo and I found it very satisfying. I had to admit being with Izuku and the family had definitely taken a toll on my sanity. I wasn't Yandere crazy, but you can't kill people without batting an eye whilst maintaining your sanity. It just isn't possible. Once that was over, the class began listening to Aizawa discuss the sports festival. I, however, took exception to this. Griet. Another practical event where we have to hold back. Fan-fucking-tastic. Then when I don't do well, I have to act all mopey and depressed when I don't do as well as someone who made it in through recommendations should. Ugh, how bothersome. Toru was probably having similar thoughts, albeit minus the ones related to recommendations, of course. Neither of us like holding back. We were given some time off in order to train. Toru and I would likely visit our boyfriends rather than train if I'm being completely honest. We have our own training regimens we follow to keep us above several pro heroes that we do on our own time. Hey Yamamo, I was wondering if maybe you wanted to train for the festival together. Jiro asked with a light blush. For fuck's sake, woman. I can't say no, I have an act to keep up after all. Oh, I'm honored you'd ask me for help. Of course we can, Jiro. I said, earning a bright smile from the punk girl. Well, there goes half of my time with Izuku. Bakugo POV. To say that I was pissed was an understatement. I was insanely pissed. The worst part was I couldn't do shit about it either. Ever since the clusterfuck that was the USJ incident, all anyone's been able to talk about is Joker this and Joker that. Now apparently someone let it slip that I bullied him and made him who he is, and now everyone is talking shit. I questioned who in class fucking did it, obviously everyone denied it. Fuck, I wouldn't be surprised if that damn nerd spread the rumor himself, since he apparently became a fucking crime lord during the 10 years that he was gone. That shit is seriously fucked up. Not the extras talking shit, I deserve that. But the fact that nerdy, hero-loving Deku is a fucking crime lord. Fuck, that pisses me off more than the shit talking. At least I got a new arm out of everything. It uses tech to replicate my quirk and can even fire the sweat. Holding grenades that I kept. It can also keep up with my howitzer impact in terms of raw power. Momo POV. It doesn't really need to be said that I was incredibly pleased with myself. Using our extensive network of hackers, it wasn't too hard to let slip that Bakugo made Izuku who he is today. I then got to watch Bakugo get a taste of his own medicine. Everyone from every class was talking shit on him, and why wouldn't they? He created a villain that stopped All Might and the leader of the League of Villains in their tracks with just a flick of his wrist. No student, not even Ida, had tried to stop it from happening either. The teachers tried, which is more than can be said for Izuku's teachers, but it didn't really help too much. When asked by students from the other courses if the rumors were true, we would always say yes. He did deserve it after all. I think it's needless to say everyone has found a target for the sports festival. Time skip after the sports festival. Momo POV. I could not be more pleased with how the sports festival went. Ida was asked to give a speech to the student body. A task he did wonderfully. Then the chaos began. The first game was an obstacle course. Normally Bakugo would be able to breeze through this since he could basically fly using his explosions. However, his prosthesis was considered a support item and therefore unusable as he wasn't in the support course. This knocked him from being potentially first place to being more towards the middle. Next was the cavalry battle. The person who placed first, Shiozaki Ibara, a devout Christian with a vine quirk, from Class 1B, had the 10 million point banner. But despite that, everyone still went after Bakugo. This resulted in him not making it to Round 3. Round 3 was a tournament. Hitoshi Shinso from the general course beat Sen Kaibara from Class 1B with his mind control quirk. Next was Shiozaki Ibara versus Kaminari. Since Ibara was able to block Kaminari's indiscriminate shock, she pulled in the victory. Ishido was able to beat Aoyama. Kirishima beat 1B's Tetsu. Uraraka beat 1B's Hananuki Juzo. I beat Tokoyami using flash bombs. Ida, bless his soul, won after the support course's Hatsum turned him into a living billboard and forfeited. Siro beat 1B's Yosetsu Aways. The next round had Shinso beating Siro, Ida beating Ibara, me beating Ishido, and Kirishima beating Uraraka, albeit barely. I gotta say the girl's tough. The third round pit Shinso against Ida, with Ida being the victor, while I won my battle against Kirishima. The final round had me against Ida, which I barely won whilst holding back. Ida unfortunately had to leave before the awards ceremony due to a family emergency. By using our family's network of infobrokers, I discovered Ida's brother Ingenium was attacked and severely injured by the hero killer. As such, I offered to deliver the medal to him when he returned. The next day in class, we picked our hero names and learned that we would get internships. Uraraka went with Gunhead, Tsuyu went with Selkie, Kirishima went with Fourth Kind, Kendo went with Iwabami, Ida went with Manual, Jiro went with Death Arms, Bakugo went with Best Jeanist, I went with MT Lady, and Tokoyami went with Hawks. The others really didn't matter too much since they were under third-rate heroes. Izuku POV. Oh my. It seems the League has tried recruiting Stain. How do I know this, you ask? Well, when you have an information network as extensive as ours, you have a tendency to know whatever you want to know. The League's attempt to recruit Stain is the reason I am currently traveling around Hosu. I'd prefer if he stayed independent rather than teaming up with the Amateur Villains Club. He'd be way more efficient that way. I spent quite some time traveling around Hosu. Upwards of a week, I want to say. My luck turned for the better, it seemed, as I heard screams. As I landed on the roof nearest to the screams, I saw Stain, Glasses McDorkface from 1A, and some third-rate hero that I didn't bother to recognize. I'll kill you, and in doing so I will avenge the name Ingenium, Ida shouted. My, I heard his brother was hit by Stain, but he's being quite irrational about this. It seems I was mistaken, boy. You are just another faker in this world of heroes. For that you must die. I couldn't suppress my whistle as I was quite impressed by Stain's conviction to cleansing the world of heroes. I mean, I knew he was a fanatic, but to kill a kid who hasn't even gotten through school yet takes a special kind of crazy. A kind of crazy I can respect. My whistle seemed to have gotten everyone's attention, however, since all heads turned towards me. What? Is all that Ida said. Who's there? Stain seemed instantly on alert. I should probably calm him down. Oh, don't mind me, I'm just spectating at the moment. Stain, can you do me a solid and finish up, so I can have a chat with you real quick? Who the hell are you? Another hero? This caused me to laugh like crazy. Who, me? A hero? No way, dude, not my thing. I am Joker. What are you doing here? What are your plans? Are you going to do to me what you did to Bakugo and take one of my limbs too? You know it's rude to interrupt people, Tenya Ida. You know my name. How? Oh, a little birdie told me. Even if they hadn't, placing second in the UA Sports Festival is quite impressive. A little birdie? Is Tokoyami working under you? Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Who really knows? Oh man, messing with people like this is so much fun. Destroying the bonds of trust between comrades is such a great pastime. Trickery, thy name is Izuku. Joker? You're that villain working for the League. For the first time in this entire encounter I scowled. Then with a twitch of my finger I cut his sword in half. Stain's eyes widened with shock. The next time you so much as think of associating me with those amateurs, I'll cut you in two instead of your weapons. Do I make myself clear? Stain could only nod. And with that my smile returned. Good, now that we're clear. I was then interrupted by an attacking Numu, which everyone promptly dodged as Stain's quirk wore off. For fuck's sake, does no one have manners anymore? 3 more flying Numu proceeded to appear. That would seem to be the case. As reluctant as I am, we'll have to work together to beat them, said Ida Ryite. So here's how we'll split it up. Stain, Glasses, third rate, you guys will take the first one. Me, I'll take the other 3. We good? We good. Let's go. I then proceeded to take to the sky before anyone could interrupt or challenge my plan. Stain POV. Does that arrogant fool really believe he can handle 3 of these monsters? Hey, what nonsense. Even with the kid and the faker helping me, we had to resort to dodging and counterattacking as a strategy. The thing had instant regeneration too, so we were in for a long fight. Izuku POV. I get the distinct impression someone is underestimating me. Oh well, their loss, I suppose. I decided to end this quick by sending bullet strings through their heads, which worked fine until they regenerated. Instant regeneration, huh? This might be fun after all. I then proceeded to rush forth and crack one right in its exposed brain before kicking a second one so hard its ribs had to have punctured at least 1 lung. I dodged the third before kneeing it in the solar plexus. I realized after this exchange how boring it was when someone couldn't fight back. Unless there was blood involved, then it was always fun. So I started dismembering them. They recovered every time, but at least I had fun. Then I figured I should probably end it, and I cut all their brains into pieces so small it was impossible to regenerate. I love being able to do that with just a few twitches of my fingers. So satisfying. Now to see how the other chumps are doing. Stain POV. The stupid thing just wouldn't die. No matter how many times I cut it. No matter how hard the kid kicked it. Nothing we did worked. The kid and I were about to do a combo attack. Before its head got cut into little pieces. How'd that happen? Then the body fell and we saw Joker sitting on the roof, one leg crossed over the other with nigh invisible wires twirling around him and that damn smile planted on his face. At that moment I knew. This kid was a monster. Ida POV. Unbelievable, he ended a very difficult and one-sided fight in less than a second. Not only that, he took out the other three too. Just how strong is this man? Izuku POV. Oh man, I tell you, the looks on their faces were so fucking priceless. Unfortunately, the Numas drew the presence of heroes and law enforcement, so I had to make my chat with Stain quick. I'm gonna level with you, Stain. I have no issues with what you do. In fact, I applaud it. So do yourself a favor. Don't side with the League, they'll just hold you back. I see. Thanks for the advice, Joker, I'll take it. See ya around. Not so fast, do you really think I'll just let you dash? Either. You wouldn't want to lose your legs now, would you? Your brother will recover with enough physical therapy. But replacing your legs will be a whole different problem now, won't it? Make the smart choice, glasses. He reluctantly let Stain escape. With that done, I made my way back to our home base before the authorities arrived. Today was quite an eventful day. Now to see what tomorrow holds. The thought makes me giddy with excitement. Monoma POV, I can't believe it. Stealing the show at the sports festival wasn't enough. 1A also had to have an encounter with the hero killer. They just have to one-up us at everything. Can you believe those kids from 1A? Can you believe them, Shiozaki? Actually, I am just happy God spared them from the pain of losing a classmate. My vine-headed classmate replied. Really? After that four-eyed robot disrespected you during the sports festival? Or that half-and-half prick trashed his own classmates like nothing? How can any of you not be as pissed as I am? Wrath is not a sin that we future heroes should partake in, Monoma. In fact, is the one we should dabble in the least. Perhaps the word of God will sate your lust for vengeance against our fellow students. Ugh, she always makes things about religion. I can't blame her though. From what I've heard, religion is all that got her past her family's passing. That is literally the only reason that I tolerate it. However, my thoughts were interrupted by a voice that would change both of our lives forever. Izuku builded my. If I recall, you were the one that ragged on my old bully the most during the festival's second round, weren't you, Blondie? I said as I dropped down from my sky road. I could tell they were shocked and scared, but that wasn't really my concern. It is not too late, Joker. If you hear the word of God, I am sure he will absolve you of your sins. The vine-headed girl said to me. Did they think I was here to kill them? I suppose I shouldn't be surprised considering what I did the last time I encountered multiple students. Oh well. Are you two perhaps scared of me? Why would we be scared of you? If we're going to be heroes, we'll have to face people like you. The blonde one said. Dude. Quick word of advice. If you're gonna bluff someone, make sure you believe the bluff first. Monoma is not bluffing. He would not be afraid of one such as you. The girl, I believe, called. Shiozaki said as Monoma looked shocked at her faith in him. Do I smell a possible romance coming on? Oh boy, this will be such fun. Regardless, I have no intention of harming either of you today. So you can relax. Monoma POV, my eyes widened in shock. When did Shiozaki get such faith in me? Of course I bluffed. This guy took down 1A's top dog with no effort from what I heard. I was even more shocked to hear that he wasn't going to hurt us. What was he here for then? You will not harm us? What is your purpose then, O jester coated in sin? Jesus, Shiozaki, really? O jester coated in sin, what if he takes offense to that? Izuku POV. Oh, jester coated in sin, holy shit, I had to try so hard not to laugh my ass off at that. In the end, I let out a little chuckle which caught their attention. Oh well. Simple, I want you to join me. You see, Monoma, I happen to agree with your assessment on 1A, at least for the most part. I could give you both the power you need to one-up them. Why should we join you? We are aspiring heroes, not street thugs you can hire to do your bidding. We shall not stray from God's light. My, how devout she is. Perhaps it's time for a different trick. The thought caused my grin to widen. Flashback 6 years ago. Momo found a book that could be used to help strengthen the family's fighting ability. The book talked of a power derived from willpower called haki. It seemed interesting, so we all gave it a shot. The book told of 3 types of haki. They were observation, armament, and conqueror's haki. Armament could be used similarly to a hardening quirk, while also giving the user the ability to hit those who could become intangible. Observation gave users a sixth sense of sorts that supposedly allowed for the tracking of attacks that occurred at light speed. Conqueror's was different though. Everyone could use observation or armament, but only a small percent could use Conqueror's haki. It allowed the user to project their will even to the point of knocking out those who had a weaker will than the caster. Oddly enough, Compress had the greatest aptitude for haki and gained the ability before the rest of us. His first use was observation haki. Dabi and Shuto used armament before anyone else. After them, I used Conqueror's haki. While no one was knocked out, everyone felt it. It took 1 year for us to use haki reliably. It took 2 more years for us to develop our proficiencies in it. Toru and Compress were more skilled at observation. Momo and Toga were better at armament. Dabi and Shuto were equally skilled in both. I excelled at Conquerors. 3 years after that, we had mastered our haki. Flashback end. Shizaki's POV. What was this feeling? This air of superiority? I've never felt anything like it. It was more overpowering than the killing intent of that man. Is this what it feels like to be in the presence of God? Felt invigorating. Felt powerful. But it also felt kind and welcoming. What was this power he seemed to have? Monoma POV. What the hell was this? What was this presence? This sensation? This overwhelming power? Even in the face of this power, I couldn't bring myself to be afraid of him. This aura he was releasing felt warm, like it meant us no harm. He promised power, and I believed him. Izuku POV. I only released a small portion of Conqueror's haki. I didn't want to abduct them after all. I wanted them to join me by choice. Judging by how Monoma dropped to his hands and knees while Shiozaki dropped into prayer, I could tell I succeeded. You say you can give me the power to surpass those bastards from 1A if I join you. Count me in. If I can't be a hero with them around, then I'll be a villain instead and knock them off their high horse. I see it now. I apologize for my disrespect, O Great One. I devote myself to you and your cause. Please allow me to serve you as a loyal vassal should. Glad to hear it. Come on, we're going to get started on catching you up. You are going to need haki if you're going to compete with us after all. This seemed to confuse the two, but I cut them off before they could ask any questions. I'll explain what haki is once we start your training, so hold off on any questions until then, yeah? They nodded and we were on our way. I hope Compress had as good of luck as I did. Compress POV at the same time as Izuku's recruitment. It seems Joker was right. They betrayed their own classmate at the drop of a known phrase. How disappointing. The reason for this line of thought was because Fumikage Tokoyami was currently being chased by several police officers. Well, I suppose I should get to work. I dropped down from my perch on a telephone pole and compressed each police officer before jumping in front of Tokoyami. Whoa there, boy, relax, I mean you no harm. I did deal with your would-be captors after all, I said as I showed him the beads in between my fingers. He looked behind him and sure enough they were gone just as I promised. You have my thanks, stranger from the darkness. May I ask your name? My friends call me Compress. Now why's a kid like you running from the cops anyway? I recognize you from the UA Sports Festival. My supposed comrades accused me of being a traitor working for the villain known as Joker. And apparently it's 'cause he has a bird head. The fuck kind of bullshit is that? Oh my, Joker told me that might happen. The boy went on guard at this. Perhaps I should reintroduce myself. I am Atsuhiro Seiko, better known as Mr. Compress, and an executive to the Midoriya family. Before you run or attack me, allow me to explain your situation. You see, Tenya Ida picked his internship with the intention of exacting revenge on Stain. He was clearly shocked by that last piece of information. He did what? And he dares to accuse me of villainy. Yeah, the fuck is that shit? Oh, believe me, I agree. I honestly expected more from the brother of a pro hero. Joker, however, seemed to think that this would happen and sent me to keep an eye on you. How did he know I would be accused of being a traitor? Well, it's quite silly, honestly. Or at least that was what I thought. You see, Joker wanted to advise Stain against joining the League of Villains, and in doing so prevented Tenya Ida's death. When Ida asked how my boss knew his name, Joker simply responded with the phrase, "Oh, a little birdie told me, and now here we are." Ida accused me over something like that? The boy was clearly shocked by this information. Not very heroic, is it? Well, since this was our fault, Joker has some offers for you if you're willing to listen. What are these offers? Well, you see, we know quite a few people in our line of work. We could get someone to permanently change your appearance and give you a new identity here in Japan. Or if you're against changing your appearance, we could teach you a new language and get you a new country to escape capture. Normally, we would recruit you, but Joker feels that we have messed with your life enough. He seemed to think for a second before shocking me. Is recruitment an option? May I ask why? If a fool like Tenya Ida can get away with making such baseless accusations when searching for vengeance, I think that I am entitled to some vengeance of my own. So are you gonna let us in, or what, magic man? Very well, Joker did not foresee this, but I think it will be a pleasant surprise for him. Follow me, we have much to teach you if you wish to keep up with the rest of us. The boy followed me like a man on a mission. It seems that instead of ridding UA of a traitor, Ida only ensured the creation of another. Time skip several hours. General POV Monoma, Tokoyami, and Shiozaki were all in the process of learning hockey. They were learning much faster as they had actual teachers in the form of Compress and surprisingly Dabi, rather than being self-taught. Tokoyami and Monoma found that they picked up armament fairly well, whilst Shiozaki found observation to be easier. They were all shocked when they heard familiar voices come from the warehouse entrance. Izuku, we're back. Hey Joker, is Shudo around? I've missed him lots. This elicited shocks from all three hockey students, as none of them expected two of 1A students to stroll in like it was no one's business. Yaoyorozu. Hagakure. They're from 1A. What the hell is this? What are our schoolmates doing here? Momo and Toru were equally shocked to see Tokoyami. They only expected to see Monoma and Shiozaki. Thankfully, Izuku was there to explain. Hey Momo, I missed ya as always. Hey Toru. Shudo's in the back cooking. I'm sure he'd accept a distraction from you. Nito, Ibara, Fumikage, meet Momo, Yaoyorozu, and Toru Hagakure. Two of my executives and my infiltrators in UA. Momo, Toru, meet our newest recruits. But Izuku, I thought you said you were only recruiting Ibara and Nito, not Fumikage as well. Fumikage seemed to take exception to this. Do you have an issue with me being here, Yaoyorozu? No, not at all. I just figured that after we ruined your chances of being a hero, you wouldn't want anything to do with us. Shame on you for those thoughts, Yaoyorozu, said Ibara. She's right. It wasn't your guy's fault. Nito agreed. Indeed, it was that fool Ida's fault for taking words at face value rather than looking for a deeper meaning. Sorry Momo, and I couldn't do better. Damage control, Tokoyami. Joker really didn't intend for this to happen. I am aware, and I thank both of you for your support. Izuku smiled wider at this. His new members were already getting along with his family, and that always made him happy. The three recruits had compassion for one another, which already qualified them for executive, at least partially. They still had to get their empty hand and hockey skills up to snuff, but with actual teachers rather than having to teach themselves, it wouldn't take long. It seemed, however, that he would need to issue some orders, however, so he drifted down. All right, first off, Momo, come here and give me a kiss. You've been standing there for like 5 minutes. After doing so, he continued despite the three newest members' shock. Tokoyami, you're in the clear since you are wanted by the police. Nito and Ibara, you are both going to claim to be sick and not return to UA until the day of your exams so you all can get your skills up to snuff. Word has been going around that the League plans to attack the training camp you guys will be going on, so you'll need to be prepared. Man-child or not, Shigaraki and his villains are skilled and not to be underestimated. Toru, I want you and Compress to help Fumikage and Nito with observation hockey. Momo, I want you to help Ibara with armament, and you can switch off with Himiko when she gets back so you can complete your assignments for UA. Momo and Toru will also be helping you too with your assignments during your breaks so you can get M done faster. Any questions? Everyone seemed to understand and got to work. Next up was crashing Shigaraki's plan to crash the training camp. Momo POV. Classes had just ended for the day and I was about to head back to the warehouse so I could help Ibara with her armament hockey, but it seemed fate had other plans. I turned around as I heard Jiro calling my name. Jiro, did you need something? Oh, well, IW was wondering if maybe you wanted to study together. Why, you know, for the exams and stuff. Oh my, this is quite the opportunity. I think I'll have a little fun with her today. Oh, why, of course, I'd be happy to. I said with a smile you'd give to someone who's more than just a friend. Her blush was intensifying by the second. After she gave a meek thank you, we decided to go to her house. Conveniently, her parents weren't home, so I was more than capable of taking advantage of the situation. When I gave her practice problems, I made sure that they were out of her range of understanding. The more problems she got wrong, the more her stress would build up. I let this go on up until she looked like she was about to explode. Are you doing okay, Jiro? You seem a little upset, I said as sweetly as possible. She responded by ranting about the difficulty of the problems and how we'll never need them and many other things. I let this go on for a while before cutting her off. Jiro POV. And why the actual fuck do we need to know how to find Taj? I was saying before my rant was cut off by Momo's lips covering my own. I did the obvious thing and kissed her back despite knowing that she had a boyfriend. Once we broke apart, I decided to ask her about that. Yamamo, why? I thought you had a boyfriend. He's never around. But you are Jiro. Always supporting me and loving me. You're always there for me, she said in response. Kyoka, I said. What? I looked her in the eye and put my hand on her cheek, and I whispered, call me Kyoka. She leaned closer. Only if you call me Momo, she whispered back. Our lips crashed back together. Momo POV / timeskip 30 minutes. Oh my, she wasn't bad. She wasn't as good as Izuku, but she was not bad at all. I looked at her sleeping form next to me. She certainly was cute. Maybe in a different life we could have had something serious. Not now though, not as long as Izuku was with me. I made a note apologizing that I had to leave since my parents called. Once I got back to the warehouse, I was immediately sniffed by Himiko. Hey Joker. Momo smells like sex. What the fuck, woman? Does she now? Oh shit, I hope he isn't too mad. The very next second, he was right in front of me, his signature grin wiped off of his face. Now, why would that be the case? I led Kyokajiro to believe that I had an interest in her. This will damage her emotionally once we're pulled out from the training camp and make her less of a threat. Oh my god, I hope he accepts that. I see. I suppose since it's Jiro and you have no feelings for her, I can let it slide. I almost sighed in relief. However, my eyes widened with shock at his next statement. I can't let you go without some form of consequences though. So no physical intimacy for 3 weeks sounds good to me. No physical intimacy. No hugs, kisses, cuddles, or sex. For 3 weeks? God damn it. Jiro, you were so not worth it. So long as you don't bone her again, you can do whatever you need to in order to maintain your cover. I'm not that unfair. I suppose it could be worse. He could have broken up with me after all. The next day during lunch, I apologized to Jiro for taking advantage of her and assured her that it wouldn't happen again. She, however, wanted to keep it going. Granted, at a much slower pace than we started, but still. I already feel guilty because of my talk with Izuku yesterday. Now I'm going to feel guilty every time I'm with her. For someone Izuku calls the smartest executive, I'm really fucking stupid. Time skip exam day. Today was the day of the exams. Every day leading up until now was a combination of studying and making out with Jiro, while I really wanted to be with Izuku. Oh well, at least I got her to agree to lay off for the training camp using the excuse of wanting to make the most of our time there. Every day after studying with Jiro, I would go back to the warehouse and do anything I could to make it up to Izuku. He claimed to have gotten over it since he realized how much I regretted my mistake. That wasn't enough for me, however. I would do literally everything short of physical intimacy, as that has been banned for 3 weeks. However, I couldn't focus on that right now. Right now, I had to focus on how kendo and I could beat Aizawa without me using haki or going all out. The solution was simpler than you would think. Flash bombs and tear gas did the trick and allowed us to make it through the exit and pass. Not everyone passed, however. Shiro, Ashido, Kirishima, Kaminari, and Sato all failed the practical. Aizawa, however, revealed that they would still be going to the training camp with remedial lessons stacked on top of everything. Sucks for them, doesn't it? Time skip day of the training camp. The days leading up to the training camp were, for the most part, uneventful. Aside from the part where Uraraka was held hostage by the man Shigaraki. Supposedly, he wanted to know why people focused on Izuku and Stain more than him. Her answer was that Stain had a clear ideology, whereas Izuku had a more powerful presence. She wasn't wrong either. With Izuku being able to stop a clash between Shigaraki and All Might with no effort, as well as taking out 3 Numas with the same lack of effort, he had more presence than Shigaraki could compete with. Now that we were actually getting onto the bus to leave for the training camp, I was hoping to sit next to perhaps Kendo or Tokage, but it seems that Jiro will be sitting next to me. Probably so she can get in as much physical intimacy as possible before the training camp. God damn it. My only consolation is that Compress is going to pull us out after thwarting the league. So after a long bus ride of non-consensual cuddles, we stopped to stretch our legs, as Aizawa put it. Turns out that meant traveling through a forest of earthen monsters created by one of the pussycats, Pixie Bob. It would have been easy if Toru and I were allowed to use haki and go all out, but knew we have to keep our cover. I'm getting really tired of holding back and considering how many nights I've had to listen to her rant. She probably is too. After clearing the forest and acting like I was tired, we had dinner. But not before Ida was punched in the shin by a very bratty child and went to the hot springs. After an incident with Mineta trying to sneak a peek at us and being thwarted by said bratty child, the day was over. So I sent our coordinates to Compress and called it a day. The next day consisted of us pushing our quirks to the limit. I was with Sato since our quirks revolved around food. Bakugo stuck his organic hand into boiling water. Jiro used her ear jacks to hit a cliff. Ashido continuously secreted acid. Shoji had to try and find Toru. Koda had vocal exercises, and Kirishima had to let Ojiro hit him repeatedly, among other types of training students had to do. At the end of the day, we had to go through the test of courage. Little did everyone else know how much of a test it would be. General POV. Compress and Tokoyami were currently a ways away from where the league is supposed to appear. They're close enough to see them, but far enough away to not be seen themselves. Granted, with observation haki, this wasn't too difficult. Speaking which, Tokoyami was currently using his observation haki search for Ida. My. It seems Joker was right. He's more fixated on revenge rather than following the plan. Oh well, good thing I was informed of this so I could plan around this. Needless to say, Tokoyami wouldn't become an executive anytime soon with that kind of attitude. That's neither here nor there, as Tokoyami found Ida and began to make his way towards him. Compress didn't try to stop him, as the boy was no longer his concern. It was at this moment that the League of Villains appeared and made their move. The villains who appeared were Mustard, Muscular, Moonfish, Magna, Kurogiri, Twice, and Shigaraki himself. Compress took this as his cue to enter the forest and to have some fun. Tokoyami POV. I'll have to remember to thank Hagakure for helping me with my observation. It was only through haki that I was able to find Ida. It seemed like he was moving towards another presence, but that was none of my concern. If Ida could go out searching for revenge, then so can I. Are you ready, Dark Shadow? You know it, let's pummel this guy. Once we reached him, we saw him near a little kid. The kid was none of our concern, though. He turned around right as we landed. Tokoyami? I don't know why you are here, but leave at once. I will not allow you to harm Kota. The child is of no interest to me, backstabber. All I'm after is you. Ye glasses after you singled us out and accused us over something as petty as poor word choice. We've been think about getting our revenge and nothing else. Revenge? Vengeance is not becoming of a hero. If vengeance is your reasoning, then I was right to make my accusations. Vengeance is not becoming of a hero. This coming from the one who almost lost himself to the madness of vengeance when chasing after Stain. Ida's eyes widened at that. If I were to guess, I'd say he's surprised that I knew about that. Then his eyes narrowed. So you really are working with Joker? I am now. After all, you didn't give me much choice in the matter. Enough. If it is vengeance you want, you'll find it very hard to earn. We wouldn't have it any other way. General POV. Ida rushed towards Tokoyami, but to his surprise the avian boy dodged with no effort before having Dark Shadow punch him into the cliffside. This continued on for most of the fight, but what Tokoyami didn't realize was that he developed tunnel vision. All of his observation haki was focused on Ida and nowhere else. He then used armament to punch Ida's leg right as he kicked and shattered his femur. This elicited a scream from Ida and a laugh from Dark Shadow. He and Dark Shadow continued to beat on him, but his tunnel vision prevented him from sensing the giant mass of muscles that was about to crash into him. Muscular in all of his glory crashed down, killing Tokoyami instantly due to his lack of protection, and permanently damage Ida's legs beyond repair. By this point Kota had long since left, and with both teenagers incapacitated, Muscular was thoroughly disappointed. Meanwhile, the class, Aizawa, and the Pussycats were dealing with other villains. The gas wasn't too much of a threat as Momo made gas masks for everyone. Despite this, everyone noticed when the gas disappeared. The reason for this was that Mustard was the most troublesome since Compress didn't have a gas mask. So he took the schoolboy out quickly before making his way towards the main crowd of people. His path was once again interrupted by a man who was covered from head to toe with only his mouth exposed. Moonfish then tried to impale Compress with his teeth, but considering Compress is an observation master, it didn't go too well. One well-placed hockey strike later and Moonfish was down for the count. Once he arrived, the showman in him decided a grand entrance was in order. So he copied something his boss liked to do. If you're gonna take inspiration, take it from the best after all. Compress POV. I sat down on a tree branch with one leg crossed over the other. It's time to do my Joker impression. My. We have quite the rowdy bunch here now, don't we? Hey, I know you. Who the hell are you? Said the villain known as Twice. You can call me Mr. Compress. I am one of the executives of the Midorya family. I grinned under my mask as everyone's eyes widened at my declaration. Then a girl who looked like a frog asked me a surprising question. How did you get Tokoyami to work for you, Ribbit? Oh, my young amphibian, that's the beauty of it. We didn't. This time the students gasped and whispered amongst themselves. Would you like to know why Tenya Ida accused Fumikage Tokoyami, my dear? The girl nodded at this. My grin widened under my mask. You see, during his internship, Tenya Ida attempted to hunt down Stain in order to avenge his brother. During this sequence of events, my boss appeared and addressed him by name. When asked by Ida about how he knew his name, Joker replied, "A little birdie told me. And my dear students is why Tenya Ida accused Fumikage Tokoyami." This caused looks of shame and anger to appear on the students' faces. But that accusation is baseless, Ribbit. Oh, you're telling me. When Joker told me to keep an eye on the kid for that very reason, I doubted the necessity. Turns out my boss was right. Unfortunately, it seems that young Tokoyami fell into the same pit of vengeance against Ida. I sensed his death through my observation. Truly a shame. If he would have moved past his desire for vengeance, he would have made a fine executive. Before anyone could ask what I meant, a blonde mass of muscles charged out from the trees and grabbed Bakugo before jumping over to where the villains were. They then used the warp gate user to escape. Yeesh, talk about a rushed show. Those villains have no sense of showmanship. Oh well, time to go I guess. Jiro POV crap, we can't let this villain escape. Especially since no one could reach Ragdoll for some reason. I was shocked to hear some very familiar voices say something they shouldn't have. You know, Compress One could say that your sense of showmanship is your greatest weakness. However, I know you'll disagree, so we should probably just leave. Yeah, can we finally leave? I'm really tired of holding back. Indeed. I too am eager to return to our Lord. Yeah, honestly, with everything being said and done, I'm glad I don't have to work with these chumps from 1A anymore. I can't believe it. Momo, Hagakure, Monoma, and Shiozaki. Why are they walking so casually toward that villain? Why are they talking like they're old friends? Why? Why, Momo, why are you walking towards him? Sorry, Jiro, but Toru and I were Izuku's informants, not Tokoyami. Besides, he was little upset that his girlfriend slept with someone else, so I gotta make it up to him. I can't believe it. Momo is Joker's girlfriend. She and Hagakure were traitors all along. We followed Ida in forsaking Tokoyami while the real traitors were some of our most trusted classmates. I couldn't take it and I broke down crying. Kirishima POV. What the hell, Yamamo? Why would you betray us like this? Betray Jiro like this? You mean besides the fact that I've been part of the family for 10 years? 10 years? She's been with them from the beginning. Damn it, and Jiro's no help right now. Toru, why? I thought we had something between us. Sorry, Ojiro, but I've already got a boyfriend back with the family. Don't be discouraged though, if we met before I met my sweet halfsy, I probably would have dated you. But bye. Monoma, Shiozaki. Explain yourselves. I heard Vlad King shout. It's simple, they gave me what I need to outshine 1A. No matter how much encouragement you give. Us will always be on the back burner and I just can't accept that. With Joker and his family I can reach my full potential. Joker is a man chosen by God and I will always follow God's will. Then Momo said something that frightened all of us to our core. And let's just say that Izuku isn't the only one with spies in UA. Tata. Compress POV. Well, I think we have spent enough time indulging the kids' questions. So with that, I compressed all of them and made my way through the forest and towards the car we have stashed a ways away. However, I stopped when I found a peculiar-looking fruit. I released everyone before asking our most knowledgeable member a question. Momo, this is a devil fruit, is it not? Nito and Ibera gasped at my question. A devil fruit? The same fruit that gave Joker his godly power? It was Momo who responded. Yes, it is. We should take it with us, Joker might have a use for it later. So with that, I compressed the fruit and we made our way back to our car. We then started our drive to the city. Now that we have all of our members again, we can prepare to annihilate the League of Villains. The entirety of UA's first-year heroes were, for lack of a better term, fucked up. Not only did they have one of their classmates kidnapped, not only did they accuse the wrong student of being a traitor. On top of that, 4 students were actual traitors and there was still another traitor among them. Jiro and Ojiro were hit hard by the betrayal of the ones they loved. The traitors' close friends were hit just as hard because they felt like they should have known better. The damage Ida took to his legs hurt Uraraka since deep down she knew that even if he recovered he wouldn't be able to be a hero anymore. Tsuyu, Koda, and Shoji were all distraught over Tokoyami's death. Kaminari was nowhere to be found. Nizu, Aizawa, Vlad King, and All Might were at a loss on how to deal with the betrayal of their students. Turu's parents were burnt to a crisp by their daughter's boyfriend during the training camp incident and were only found when the staff went to inform them of their daughter's betrayal. Momo's parents faced bankruptcy as Calculator had transferred every last dollar of the Yaoyorozu family finances over to the many bank accounts used by their organization. The Pussycats were frantic in trying to find their missing teammate, Ragdoll. Things were not looking good for the heroes. On the villain side of things, reactions were mixed. Shigaraki was both happy and pissed at the same time. He was happy that they achieved their objective of capturing Bakugo. He was pissed because Bakugo wasn't cooperating and Kaminari had to be pulled out of UA to avoid suspicion. Meanwhile, on Izuku's side of things, everything was going well. Momo and Toru were holding their boyfriends with no plans of letting go. Momo because her 3 weeks were up. Toru because Shudo killed her slave-driving parents. Himiko was excited that she would be able to have some fun with the League while Dabi was keeping her from doing something stupid. Compress was helping Nito and Ibara come up with their code names. They eventually settled on Larceny for Nito and Poison Ivy for Ibara. Alright everyone, it's time to move out. With Bakugo captured, the heroes aren't just gonna sit on the sidelines. They're gonna make their move and they're gonna do it soon. This is a once-in-a-life chance to humiliate not just the heroes, but the League of Villains too. Everyone nodded in affirmation and set out towards the Kamino ward. Meanwhile, the heroes were making their own trek to the Kamino ward at the same time as Aizawa's interview. Reporter, it has come to our attention that a training camp that was supposed to be secure was attacked by not one, but 2 different villain factions. What is your response to these accusations? Aizawa, what can I say? No matter how much I want things to be different, it won't change what happened. Reporter, not only that, but one of your students was kidnapped while another was critically injured. How can UA claim to be a safe school after this event and the USJ incident? Aizawa, all we can claim is that we will increase our security in order to ensure something like this does not happen again. Reporter, and what about the information that 4 of your students were actually spies for the villain known as Joker? Nizu, I will take over from here. Aizawa. The 4 traitors are a precarious topic. Reporter, how so? 4 of your students that you let into your school were villains all along and you knew nothing. That is incompetence if ever I saw it. Nizu, oh really? Then is it safe to assume that you are an expert at rooting out villainous infiltrators? Then perhaps you would like to be the principal for UA. In fact, please tell me how you would like me to learn the identities of dangerous criminals that even heroes who specialized in underworld investigations cannot figure out. After all, until the USJ incident, no one knew any of the identities of the Midoriya family executives. While you could argue that such a fact points towards the incompetence of heroes, the fact of the matter is that these individuals are easily the most dangerous villains of this era. While their power, reach, and presence are all frightening, the truly terrifying thing is how they are able to keep information about themselves secret. Reporter, you say that their secrecy is their most fearsome quality, yet all of this information is spilling out at once. How do you explain that? Nizu, it's quite simple really. The reason we know everything that we do about the Midoriya crime family is because they allow us to know it. As this interview is going on, both heroes and executives are closing in on the League of Villains. Izuku and his executives waited back so the heroes could make their move, thus giving them the element of surprise. The heroes moved in and it seemed like they had the League in their grasp. However, Izuku knew this was not the case. It was at that moment that All for One made his appearance. 5 years ago, and Izuku might have been frightened. Now, however, he saw the older villain as someone to toy around with. Alright everyone, you know who your targets are, let's move. With that, each person found their target. Dabi and Shudo stood before Endeavor. Compress was ready to face off against Muscular. Toru snuck up on Mustard. Nito cornered Kaminari. Toga went against Moonfish. Ibara walked towards Magna. Momo approached both Shigaraki and Twice. Izuku sat on a building while staring down All for One and All Might. The battles all began right as Toru slit Mustard's throat. Nito POV, I was so ready to throw down against this one a punk. So I was quite irritated when he did what I least expected. I give, Kaminari said as he put his hands in the air. I'm sorry, come again? I said I give. I'm not stupid, I know when I'm outclassed. He said calmly. I took exception to that. So I rushed forward and gave him a hockey-powered punch to the jaw and knocked him out instantly. I then followed Toru's lead and started going after heroes. I decided to take a stab at edge shot. Toru POV, after slitting the schoolboy's throat, I went after some of the heroes. The third-rate heroes fell like nothing, but a short old man that was speeding about proved to be a decent challenge. Unfortunately for him, my reaction time coupled with observation hockey let me keep up with him. You're quite fast for someone without an enhancer-type quirk, young lady. You know what they say, practice makes perfect, I said as I left a deep cut in his side. Momo POV taking on Shigaraki and twice wasn't as difficult as one would expect. Shigaraki was very straightforward with his attacks, so it was laughably easy to dodge. Twice multiple personality disorder prevented him from making the most efficient choices in combat. If he were against a normal person, his lack of predictability would have made up for that. Unfortunately for him, I am not a normal person. Hockey made things easier than they already were. I didn't bother to use observation, but armament surprisingly prevented my creations from being disintegrated by Shigaraki's quirk. Their reactions were quite funny too, if I'm being honest. Why won't you just die already? It's because she's way too tough. It's because you're way too weak. I actually did laugh at those comments, and that only served to rile them up even more. Man, I was gonna have so much fun with them. Compress POV. This brute had no coordination whatsoever. He was quite the slugger, I must say, but that only made it easier for me to parry each of his attacks. Dodging was just as easy, if not easier, and I switched off between parrying and dodging for the sole purpose of irritating him. Needless to say, it was working. Stop fucking running away, you goddamn piece of shit coward. Yawn. You son of a bitch, I'll kill you. I can see why Joker and Momo loved toying with people. It was such a delight. After a few more minutes of this, I compressed him before crushing the marble, thus killing him. It was time for me to move on after all. Perhaps Gang Orca would make a good challenge. Himiko POV. This guy sucked. He was so covered up that no matter how many times I cut him, I still couldn't see him bleed. His teeth were super gross too. I mean, I knew they were dangerous, but they never really posed a threat to any of us. The guy was so creepy too. All he talked about was flesh, like he was a fucking zombie. I wanted this done quickly, so I threw a hockey-infused knife into his head and picked a new target. Who, you ask? Best Genist, of course. Come on, genie boy, let mama see your blood, I said as I charged him. Most people consider his Fiber Master quirk to be quite threatening, but it was nothing compared to Joker's strings. Hell, his quirk might as well be a knockoff. How distasteful of you. Not only should you learn to respect your elders, you also need a lesson in manners, young lady, he said while trying to catch me with his fibers. Too bad for him, he's way too slow. I could tell from the look on his face that he was wondering how I could avoid all of his attempts to capture me. Too bad no one's gonna explain hockey to him. I ran right past him and gave him several gashes on his arms and legs. This time I could see my prey bleed. I was gonna have so much fun with him. I licked my lips in anticipation. Ibera POV. The villain known as Magna was easy enough to deal with. Observation made getting her magnet away from her easy, and combining my vines with armament was all it took to take her out of commission. Once that was done, I decided that there were bigger fish to fry. Like empty lady. My word, what a terribly vain woman. I attempted to wrap my vines around her. She used her quirk to grow in size. Little did she know that simply growing would not allow her to break free from her sins or my vines. With her having to watch every step and me being able to move my vines as precisely as necessary, I had the clear advantage. Even without armament, I was practically toying with her. Which is why Kamui Woods took her place. He will prove to be much more of a challenge. Regardless, I will overcome all trials God throws my way. Dabi POV. Well, if it ain't dear old dad. This time the one who'll be scarred is you. You two obviously have a lot left to learn if you think you can hold a candle to me. It seems I'll have to remind you of the pecking order. And with that said and done, all three of us launched a torrent of flames. You see though, Shudo and I didn't just want to beat Dad. We wanted to massacre him. So we infused our flames with hockey. They immediately broke through his own flames and engulfed him. Normally his quirk allows him to be immune to flames for all intents and purposes. Unfortunately for him, his quirk doesn't account for the extra boost our flames got from hockey. The result was instantaneous. His cries of agony were music to my ears. They were probably music to Shudo's ears too, he's just too stoic to show it. He rushed out of our flames and began a counterattack, but each and every time our flames overpowered his. Despite all of his trash talk, he never stood a chance. The moment we met Izuku that fateful day, his own fate was sealed. Shudo POV. I have to admit, roasting Dad like a Thanksgiving turkey has been more satisfying than I thought it would be. Maybe Dabi is on to something when he says burning people alive is fun. I wouldn't know, I usually use my ice since I wanted Dad to be the first victim of my flames. After this, though, I might have to give it a shot. Since attacking us at range wasn't working, Dad tried to get us up close and personal. Needless to say, it didn't work. Each time he tried, we would always dodge before coating him in flames time and time again. At one point, Empty Lady tried to help our damn father, but a glacier to the ribs made sure that didn't happen. At this point, he was sprawled on the ground. So Dabi and I walked up to him and burnt him to death. I have to admit, I could definitely get used to the screams. It was at that moment, however, that Kamui Woods arrived to help MT Girl. I have no idea why he thought challenging two fire users was a good idea, but the battle, if you could call it that, ended quickly. As we made our way back, we saw Himiko toying around with Best Jeanist, Compress dancing around Gang Orca, Turu was countering each attack Gran Torino made, Nito was having fun with Edge Shot, while Momo and Ibra slapped around Shigaraki and Twice respectively. Izuku POV. I sat on a roof and watched All Might and All for One go at it for a few minutes before I decided to step in. And by step in I mean I gave All for One a hockey-infused knee to the chest. I don't know what your circumstances are, but it seems like we are on the same side. Young mid-dash. I cut off All Might's declaration with a palm strike to his solar plexus. Now don't misunderstand my actions, All Might. If I'm being honest, I'd be more likely to team up with All for One. Why? What did I do to you? He asked as he and All for One got back on their feet. Indeed, I must admit I too am curious as to what he did. Tell me, All Might, do you remember crushing a little kid's dreams about 10 years ago? Because guess what? That little kid took your words to heart. The look on All Might's face told me that his heart dropped. You were that kid. The one who saw me catch the villain responsible for the Mustafu apartment fire. Yeah, well, you didn't stop him fast enough to save my mom. I'm truly sorry, young Midorya. This time I cut him off with a roundhouse to the chin that sent him flying into All for One. The time for talk is over, All Might. Now stand up and fight. I'll take both of you on, I said as my grin widened and hockey covered my arms and legs. The three of us clashed right after that. General POV. Everyone stopped their fights to watch the one that was currently going on. Every news station was covering it. The kids at UA, Ketsubutsu, and Shiketsu, among other schools, all watched the titanic clash with awe. Even the TVs at the hospitals played it so Uraraka and Ida could watch it. Every viewer had the same thought run through their heads. This isn't a fight between men. This is a battle that will go down in history. And it was the truth. Each participant in the fight was the top fighter of their respective faction. No one else could ever possibly compete. On one side was All Might, the symbol of peace and the number one hero. Next to him was All for One, the originator of One for All and the only person who could fight All Might as an equal. And opposite to both of them was the scariest of the three. Izuku Joker Midorya, the 15-year-old head of the Midorya crime family, who is apparently capable of fighting both All Might and All for One by himself. Not one of these legendary fighters gave an inch. Each strike was backed by 100% of the physical force they could muster. However, everyone noticed that Izuku began to block rather than dodge. Both of the older fighters saw this as a chance and prepared their strongest attacks. All Might prepared his United States of Smash, while All for One prepared a deadly quirk combination that could easily rival his nemesis's strongest move. Most people thought that Izuku was about to lose. His executives, however, knew better. Right as they threw these titanic punches, however, Izuku jumped high enough into the air to avoid the rush of air pressure from each attack completely. And he stood there in the middle of the air as his two opponents' attacks were stopped prematurely. Everyone watching wondered what happened until their worst nightmares were confirmed. The arms the two legends used to throw their punches seemingly exploded into an unidentifiable mass of blood and flesh. It was then that everyone realized Izuku hadn't used his strings for the entire fight. All Might deflated and all four. One crumbled under the strain of using so many quirks. To the world's horror, Izuku Midorya defeated All for One and All Might. He was bruised and bleeding, a state no one has ever seen him in before, but he still won. It was at this moment that Momo killed Shigaraki and twice. The League of Villains died that night, and the symbol of peace was torn from his pedestal. The era of the Midoriya family had truly begun.
That's it for today. Remember to show your support to the creator of this story if you enjoyed it. If you would like more parts of the story to be uploaded, leave a comment and subscribe to get notified when the story continues. Bye-bye for now, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day.